spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I want you to listen very carefully to these words of Patriot Samuel Adams. And that the said Constitution be never construed to authorize Congress to infringe the just liberty of the press, or the rights of conscience, or to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms. Remember that. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning. We need a real patriot to call in with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning on a Tuesday. Oh, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, serving you. Wonderful people to work with, too. And don't forget some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them 734-6969. Right now, without further ado, let's head to the microphone and the telephone, and let's have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, young man.
How is my favorite water pistol?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dal, I gotta tell you something. Of all people, I trusted you as my dear friend, and you shot me in the back last week.
I was going to ask you if you've been in any good water fights.
No, but we're fixing to have another one, buddy.
Okay, let them come.
All right. God bless you. Thanks much.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Oh, little meek, innocent Dal sitting in the background. Now, I expected to get shot with the water from Helen, which I did. But then, all of a sudden, she turned and looked at her husband like, he did it. And you know what? He did. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's go to the weather real fast. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. And, of course, they're located at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. 678-6945, the number to call. And look for the blue door. Hey, by the way, got a small little bathroom? We'll use a shower curtain. A shower curtain that moves back and forth, saves space over a glass door that moves in and out. Shower tub combos actually can fit into small spaces, with some tubs coming in at 60 inches in length. Holy cow. Little tips to help your home from Cheney Flooring and Home Design in Burley. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
This high-pressure system is going to be sticking around for just a little bit longer, but you know what? The good news is we are going to be cooling off as we get through the week. Looks like sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, winds out of the west, right around 9 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 95, tonight low of 60, tomorrow partly cloudy, which is going to give us a few degrees of temperatures of coolness. High of 93 with an overnight low of 59, mostly sunny and 92 for Thursday, 90 for Friday, upper 80s for the weekend. Yesterday's high was 94, the overnight low was 50. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Good job, Gina. Thank you. It's going to be hot out there today, I'll tell you what. Up to 99, possibly. Oh, that's warm. That's warm. Get your deodorant on. Hey, don't forget Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. All your carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, and home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home. You know what? I got to remind you, too, that on Thursday is sale day at the sale that works for you, the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Yeah, buddy. And our favorite auctioneers, Merv May, Cade Rocky, and Lance Udy. And the number to call for consignments, 678-9411. 11 o'clock sale time at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard coming up this Thursday. Don't you miss it. We are going to have one great program today with a guest that we've got lined up. Oh, my goodness. 906, energy expert Dan Kish. He knows what's going on. He's going to talk about how the Obama administration has got whooped up a little bit on their anti-fracking movement. We're going to talk about that. Curtis Ellis, one of the great national spokespeople on any of the networks, I'm glad to have him back, is going to be on here talking about Brexit and how it's going to be good or bad for us. Then at 10:06, we're going down to New Mexico, Roswell, New Mexico, and we're going to have John LeMay on Dr. History. And then at 10:32, Maureen Ferguson talking about what happened with the Supreme Court yesterday on their vote about abortion. So, wow, gangbuster program this morning, and I'm looking forward to it, including all your calls at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, my goodness, I've got a bag full of rumply crumplies over there, but when I go to pick them up, no more. They look brand spanking new. Oh, boy, did they do a job. I love these folks, Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew at Daryl's Cleaners. And don't forget, if you prepay, then you can save 10%. I mean, hey, man, that adds up. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see them today. You know, the other day I had a chance to talk to a gentleman with SafeLink Internet. His name was Dale, and nice man. And it proves everything I've said, and I am saying about SafeLink Internet being the best. Over 10,000 customers, very reliable, very fast, and service-oriented. Amen to that. Number to call to get on the program, 677-8000. 677-8000. SafeLink Internet. You call and get on their program today. Absolutely excellent. I got to tell you, this was kind of funny. The other day, I got an email from a voice from my past. As a matter of fact, this man was my neighbor as I was growing up. He lived literally across the pasture from me in Wisconsin, he and his family. And I hope he's listening back in Crystal Lake, Illinois this morning. I know that they're watching and listening on YouTube. And I want to say to Mike Heiliger, my goodness, it was such a blessing to hear from you. And keep on keeping on. Mike Heiliger back in Crystal Lake, Illinois, listening to us and watching us on YouTube. And thank you very much. Boy, I mean, that really shocked me that he said, you remember me? I was your neighbor. My goodness sakes. His dad was my woodworking teacher in 4-H. To which, if anybody knows my ability with woodworking today, I was not a very good student of Mr. Heiliger. He was excellent. He could make anything, and he tried. He tried so hard to help me, but some students just can't cut the mustard. I was one of them. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And I know your air conditioner today is going to be sitting there going, hey, somebody forget about me? I need a new air filter if you want to keep cool. Well, stop in and get your air filters for your air conditioner at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, or give them a call, 678-0459. They're open at 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday, serving you with warm winters and now cool summers at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Oh, and by the way, I've got a lot of great people out in the audience that have said, woo, baby, we love eating at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. Thomas and Terry and the whole crew, I'm telling you what, they have made that menu just jump out at you, and it is wonderful. All the items. And you're going to love it at 611 Overland in Burley, and another location for you at 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. I mean, the menu items for breakfast and lunch and dinner anytime, all the time at America's Diner are absolutely phenomenal. Denny's Restaurant, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, 611 Overland in Burley. All right, your calls are welcome and appreciated. Come on. Hillary Clinton. Now, there are some women in the audience this morning that are going to be highly offended by what I say. But I'm going to tell the truth, and I will never shirk my right to my opinion on this show. Hillary Clinton is the absolute worst we could ever get as a president. I've said this before. I will continue to say it because I can't stand her. I can't stand the Clintons, and I do not want to have a repeat from the past with Clintons in power. She is a liar. She is a conniver. She's a control freak. She's an abuser of others, and above all, she's not trustworthy. Now, if there's any woman out there that wants to dispute this, especially Democrats, oh, please, I welcome the call. Gary Byrne, a former Secret Service agent for our country, assigned to the Clintons, has written a book, and he absolutely feels the need to speak out about how dishonest this woman is. And he says she's basically despicable. She treated others that worked for them and around them in the White House as dogs, cursed at them, yelled at them, belittled them. And I know some people out there are going to say, well, why should we believe Gary Byrne, a former Secret Service agent? Well, why not? He was there. He was the last line of defense as a Secret Service agent for Bill Clinton. As a matter of fact, see, kind of a protocol in a stepladder effect, if you will. If something happens in a shutdown situation at the White House, you know, it goes point A, point B, point C, and the final point, the last man that protects the president, he was that man. And so he was around Bill Clinton 24/7, 365, and also heard and saw exactly how Hillary Clinton is and was. And I'm going to get him on the program, and we're going to talk to him about a new book that he's written about the Clintons, and especially Hillary, and then let you be the judge. But I already have formed my opinion that you can see through her little false front building that she's put up. She is a mean, vindictive, controlling, conniving, lying woman. Now, here we go. This is where I'll take the criticism, probably. The women out in the audience that don't understand, caller, I'll be right with you. Stand by. They looked like two magpies dressed in blue yesterday, and I'm talking about two very obnoxious women standing on a stage looking like the preview of the movie Dumb and Dumber, Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren. It was so pathetic yesterday that these two might end up, oh my goodness, I hope not, as the leadership for this country. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Ed. I watched that on Hannity last night, and that was really an eye-opener. But you know what this Gary Byrne said was, I had to tell this story, because if she does get elected, and I didn't come out with that, he said I would have a guilty conscience.
Well,
and I thought that was really American on his part, don't you?
It is, and I'll tell you something. There is so much about the Clintons. There's so much about their different personalities and how they treated others, and especially there's a lot of questions left about the death of Vince Foster. There's so many questions about that last regime that they had in the White House. Why in the world, answer this, my dear friend Keith Cottom, why in the world can you possibly fathom America would be dumb enough to put them back in power again?
I don't know, but just reading between the lines of his interview, I would say he was not there to protect her. He was to protect her against the president, because evidently there was a vase broken, and the next day it turns out that he has a black eye.
Yeah, he being Bill Clinton and she being Hillary picked up an antique vase that was supposedly from a museum and hurled it at Bill along with a bunch of obscenities to which Mr. Byrne was a party to. And Bill, not being so adept as an athlete, did not duck quick enough. He looked up in the sky for a real duck and took that vase to the eye and wore that as a badge of courage against Hillary for quite some time.
Yeah, that. Remember George Bush and the shoe incident? He had a little better reaction than Bill did.
Bill,
he has. He's going to have to be protected against her because she might just kill him.
Well, Bill has brought on a lot of the contrived malice that Hillary has. There's no question about that. But the cursing and the yelling at employees and the denigrating of people and the way she absolutely looks at situations to where she's better than anyone else or holier than thou above any situation, I don't like her. I don't want anything to do with her. And I'll tell you what, those two women, Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren, standing up on stage like two female versions of Laurel and Hardy, it absolutely is despicable to think they might lead this country.
Yeah, it was kind of a circus act, wasn't it?
It was. Bring in the elephants.
It's just the way she is, and she's not going to change. And the thoughts that she has in her mind for this country. But when they sit there and ask her questions about Benghazi and things like that, she says, I am not a bit concerned.
Yeah.
And why is she not concerned? Because she's got a guy sitting in the White House that says, don't worry about it, Hillary, you will not go to jail.
Yeah, there's so much collusion going on back there in Washington right now. Actually, it's despicable on both sides of the aisle. And I've said this 1,000 times, and it's redundant, but we need a big broom and a dustpan, clean house, get rid of them. Let's start over. Keith, I got to do a commercial. Thank you very much.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right, buddy. Hey, don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. You know, what do you say about somebody and some group of people that absolutely are every day bound to helping you and helping you get back to feeling like you? That's what they do. Great physical therapists there, headed up by Nick Greenwell, and they know all the exercises. They know all the sports medicine. They really, really have the only pool around. Pool, I'm talking water, hydrotherapy pool with a treadmill in the bottom. Oh, my goodness sakes, you got to get in there and let them help you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call, 678-1191. Also want to remind you about our dear friends at Byrne Equipment and Rental. You know what? This isn't bragging. It's never bragging if it's true. But they are absolutely the best, and they have all the equipment that you might ever need to get any job done right. All the equipment rentals and all the retail equipment sales. And a lot of people, I said this yesterday, and I had a call after the program, a lot of people didn't know they had parts and service available to fix things. I'm telling you, get your equipment repaired quick and thorough at Byrne Equipment and Rental. 3 locations serving you: South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Yep, Byrne Equipment and Rental, the best. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I will get the information on Gary Byrne. I will get an appointment with him on this radio program, and we will get the first-hand kind of a preview of his book coming out about Hillary and how she, quite frankly, is not, underline the word not, qualified to be presidential material. The Benghazi report was turned out by the Democrats. And to let you know how absolutely phony and plastic the Democratic Party is. You know, I know we have a lot of people that are Democrats in this area. I know a lot of them are gritting their teeth and they just absolutely can't stand me. But that's the name of the game. You've done it to your party. Nobody else did it to you. The party and the platforms that you adhere to are absolutely despicable. You have taken, in my own humble opinion, an anti-moral stance here in America. But the Benghazi report that was turned out by the Democrats, listen to what I'm about ready to tell you. They mentioned in that Democratic report on Benghazi Donald Trump 23 times. Now, dear listener, think about this for a minute. When Benghazi was happening and after it had happened, with the lies and the cover-ups blaming Benghazi on a anti-Muslim video, which was not true at all. It was all concocted, and it's now proven by the White House. Oh, let's come out with this story about an anti-Muslim video. Yes, that's why it happened in Benghazi. No, it didn't. It was a lie, and it was all concocted by the White House 7 weeks before the re-election of Obama. It was nothing more than a cover-up. Let's call it what it is. But why would the Democrats in this Benghazi report mention Donald Trump 23 times? He wasn't even in politics at that time. Why? You know, I just am absolutely astounded as to what they did, what they said, and the causes for Benghazi, and the reasons that they couldn't get there to help the people that were dying and being shot at, and the ones that ended up being killed. There were 100 calls for help. 100 calls for help. And nobody responded. It's almost like the administration gave them up as sacrificial lambs, basically at Benghazi, for the furtherance and the cause of getting Obama reelected. Now, those are strong words, I know that. But I have to stand behind the way I feel. I do not trust Hillary Clinton. I absolutely abhorred her as Secretary of State. I have never trusted Barack Obama. I absolutely find him to be the worst president, with policies denigrating our Constitution, etc., and our moral value in this country. And to think that they perpetrated from the White House a report that said that the anti-Muslim video was crafted by the White House to protect Muslims, that to me is absolutely sickening. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Holy cow. You know what's going to start on Thursday? That's the Rupert 4th of July celebration. Yeah, buddy. And it's going to go all the way through the 4th of July. And the theme is the land that I love. Fun times in Rupert. And don't forget, my dear, dear friends, love these people. Grand Marshals Burt and Elaine Stevenson, and the Wild West Shootout Honorary Sheriff is Chuck Dahlry. I've known Chuck since way back in 1974. My goodness sakes. And they're going to start with the Christmas in July breakfast at 6 a.m. on the City Square this Thursday. Oh, I wished I could be there. And it's going to continue up until the 4th of July. Big parade on the 4th at 11 a.m. Oh, my goodness, fun in Rupert for the 4th of July. Don't miss it. Get on over to Rupert's 4th of July celebration. By the way, too, we also want to acknowledge and thank our dear friend, Dr. Christine Pickup, over at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Hey, what did he say, Martha? Well, if you're having that problem and you're not hearing everything, I suggest you get a hold of her today. The number to call, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and believe me, you'll be so glad you did. I took that hearing screening test, and it was very educational and informative, and it was also a lot of fun, too. So anyway, get on over there, give a call, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, helping you. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. What do you think about this? I mean, Hillary Clinton and possibly Elizabeth Warren as vice president. Holy moly. Slap me in the cheek. I hope that never comes to fruition. I hope neither one comes to fruition. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about Hillary as a person? What are your thoughts about these two women, especially Elizabeth Warren is laughable. Absolutely laughable. And Donald Trump is right. She is one of the worst senators of all time for ever doing anything. And then to come out and lie about her heritage, her bloodline, if you will, not being from Native Americans. She's a liar and a fraud and a charlatan just like Hillary. Good heavens. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning again. I just got this news flash from the rumor mill.
Oh, boy.
And Jimmy Hoffa has been found.
Oh, really?
They scraped all the makeup off of Hillary, and there he was.
Got him, that's nasty, but it is funny. So Jimmy Hoffa is alive and well in the form of Hillary Clinton. All right, get out of here. Go home. See you later. Thank you.
I am at home.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. Oh, I tell you what, we might as well laugh because we'd actually end up crying if everything comes to fruition the way the Democrats want it. Oh, fight that party. Fight that party. You know, I was really listening last night to various shows and commentators, and I read quite a few different newspapers yesterday in regards to immigration and the open border twits right here in Magic Valley. We've got some of those people right here in this area. Some are right here that believe there shouldn't be any borders. Oh, we got to get rid of the border on Mexico. We've got to get rid of the border down there or up there by Canada. No borders. Anybody can go anywhere they want to. That's the problem, and that's what's happening in Europe. That's why the people over in England said, enough of this garbage. We are supporting all of these people coming in. Our medical system is collapsing. The jobs, the economy, everything is on a precipice that might fall into the abyss. I really salute the people over in England for standing up and saying enough. We want our borders respected. If you're a bad guy and we don't have any idea who you are, you stay the heck out of our country. And that's the way it should be here in the United States. Good morning, caller. Calm me down. Good morning.
I will. I'll send you one of my blood pressure pills.
Okay, buddy.
Ever since the blunderer in chief has been in office, the economy has been sliding down and down and down. We're not generating enough tax income to support all these freeloaders that are coming into this country. And on top of that, the CSI refugee program is going to be another tax burden on people like you and I who are struggling to pay our taxes and our bills and just about everything else.
That's right. You know, I've had it. I said the other day on the program, and I got called on the carpet by one soul that didn't want to identify themselves. I said I went to the refrigerator the other day, and the gallon of milk that says milk of human kindness, it's empty in my refrigerator. I don't want to have it filled either. I am sick and tired of helping, and not doing what we really should be doing internally to help our own people in our own country, because we're going down the tube trying to be a catch-all, be-all to all these others that want to come in and transform this country, change our culture, and change our government policies. That's why my milk of human kindness is gone.
Well, you know, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you get one of these foreigners that come in here and they have 4 kids at $1,500 a pop. That's like $72,000 a year just for the kids, and that doesn't include all the freebies that they're getting and their parents are getting. And we're looking at over $125,000 per family with 4 kids that are not contributing anything to this country.
Yeah, I know and I understand. Oh, the bleeding heart liberals that say, well, we've got to help these people. We would have been better served, and they would have been better served if we'd have sent the military into their country and created safe zones so they could stay in their own country and exact a change in their government policies by being in their own country, instead of bringing everybody here and we, the taxpayers, take on a burden that we'll never be able to pay for.
Well, these other foreign countries are looking to get rid of their welfare recipients and dump them all on you and I.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you better go to your refrigerator. It sounds like your gallon of milk of human kindness is gone.
Well, mine is empty. I used it on my pizza yesterday.
All right, Tony. God bless you, man. Thanks. Appreciate it. See you later, buddy.
That's it for today.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. God bless you. I know that there are people that say, oh, well, you know, we just need to welcome everybody in. Everybody should have a chance at the American dream. Wait a minute. By letting everybody in for the American dream, it's going to turn into the biggest nightmare you ever saw. And it's happening. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. My audience cares. Give me a call. Don't forget some of the merchants that are really involved in promoting and helping the Rupert 4th of July celebration involve Magic Valley Carpet at 613 D Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, all your flooring needs, carpet, hardwood, vinyl, laminate, tile, and they've got professional installation, too. Oh, nice people saying, come on over to Rupert for the 4th of July, Magic Valley Carpet. And Haskin Insurance Service, 629 Fremont Street in Rupert. Nice people. These really are nice people, serving all your insurance needs, home, auto, farm, life, health. And the folks are Mike, Dustin, Dawn, and Terry. Nice people. Call them today, 436-4141, Haskin Insurance Service. And they say, come on over to Rupert for the 4th of July. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about Hillary Clinton and the absolutely vacant mind of Elizabeth Warren, along with what's happening with Gary Byrne, former Secret Service agent, and Benghazi's report. By the way, the Republican report is going to be out today. And it's really going to, I think, open up some eyes of questions. And it's going to open up a lot of different branches that Benghazi has been swept under the carpet for the Obama administration and for the sake of Hillary possibly being elected as president. So we'll have an honest appraisal of what they have to say after I get a chance to read that report. Don't forget the 2016 Silver State Stampede, and it's going to be July 7, 8, and 9 in Elko, Nevada at the Elko County Fairgrounds. The first night, Thursday night, the 7th, whoa, baby, tri-tip dinner, and then mutton busting, and then the World Championship Old West bronc riding, and then on Friday and Saturday night, PRCA Rodeo, the Ring of Fear. Woo! It is going to be fun, always is, because it's where the legend lives on in Elko, Nevada at the Silver State Stampede, July 7, 8, and 9. All right, come on, give me a call. Don't weaken on me, folks. I need your calls. It sustains me. It gives me power. Give me a call, please. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Well, hi there, pretty lady.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Well, I have two questions. One of them is, why in the world is it so essential to have a woman or women in the White House, particularly those two?
Wow.
I mean, it's like, it's so artificial. We just must have a woman in the White House, but without any reference to character or ability.
Okay, Linda, here we go. You opened the Pandora's box, and God bless you for it. You being a very nice, petite female with a beautiful singing voice, I thought sure all ladies would love to have Hillary Clinton in the White House.
There have been some other ladies that I think might have done a really, really good job. But, why must we do this without reference to the person's character and ability? And what they do is they spend their time telling everybody how rotten the other side is instead of telling people how they would solve the problems.
Okay, well, let's go to the bottom line with the with the Clintons, if you will. We have seen some of the absolutely heinous crimes, if you will, against husbands and wives and against their employees, etc., with Hillary Clinton. And do you really want another 4 years of the old Clinton saga back in the White House?
Not really. No. And the other thing that I was thinking, there were a lot of folks that came over to this country in the last century, and before that, a lot of immigrants. And, their life wasn't always that easy because they weren't treated well necessarily. People often, I think, made fun of them.
Yeah.
But, they worked, and they built up our country, and they had character. And I've seen some awesome folks who have come over even now, who have found something to do, found work to do, have gone through and are actually beautifully contributing.
Absolutely.
To their part of the world.
Absolutely.
But I think giving everybody everything doesn't build a lot of character. And I don't think we should mistreat people. But giving them everything, putting them on Social Security and the whole 9 yards, I don't think it builds any character.
Well, there was a statement made by, and I'm going to mention his name because I think he was absolutely wrong in drawing this comparison, and that's Chris Talkington on the Twin Falls City Council. And I'm paraphrasing, and I don't have the direct quote right in front of me, but basically he chastised all of us because some of us are against refugees coming in, and he said, well, I came from a family that came over here years ago. It was different then, to the point where they came over to be a part of the American dream. They came over to work hard. They came over to assimilate. They came over to be Americans. And now we're seeing a completely transitionary force of people coming in that want to change our culture, change our government, and I'm not in favor of it.
No, I'm not either. Well, even people that came over during World War II that were fleeing Hitler built up this country. And, you've got the Trapp family singers. You've got a whole bunch of other people that came over, and they gave themselves to their new land.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm proud of them. My grandfather came over from Germany.
What you just said, though, it was something that I want to repeat, and then I've got to do a weather forecast. They gave themselves to this new land. Right there, those were some beautiful words that you just uttered, because they did. They gave themselves to America, They said, here we are. Help mold us, shape us to be great Americans, instead of coming in and meeting demands and trying to change things.
Right. They didn't really necessarily lose their culture either. They kept that in their families, but they were still part of this country.
Absolutely. Linda, you are, you're just a great person, a great singer. I'm honored to know you. Thank you for your call.
Well, Seth, I'm honored to know you too, and you take care.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God
What
bless.
a nice lady. And boy, when she sings the national anthem, you feel the shivers run right up and down your backbone. She is wonderful. It's time for the weather, and the weather's brought to you by the Urgent Cares. Kyle James and his staff, I should say, they have put together 3 locations of absolute service to you. Riverview Urgent Care, 382 North Overland in Burley, right across from Walmart. Twin Falls Urgent Care, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin Falls, near Kmart. And Jerome Urgent Care at 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. No appointments necessary. It's quicker, less expensive, and a great service to you and your health. Don't forget the Urgent Care serving you. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
This high-pressure system is going to be sticking around for just a little bit longer, but you know what? The good news is we are going to be cooling off as we get through the week. Looks like sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, winds out of the west, right around 9 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 95, tonight low of 60, tomorrow partly cloudy, which is going to give us a few degrees of temperatures of coolness. High of 93 with an overnight low of 59, mostly sunny and 92 for Thursday, 90 for Friday, upper 80s for the weekend. Yesterday's high was 94, the overnight low was 50. That is your weather.
She does a very comprehensive job, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Gina. Brought to you by Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care Twin Falls, and Jerome Urgent Care. All 3 serving you and your families, and no appointments necessary. Minor emergencies, major care. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Talk to me, caller. Go.
Oh, okay. We were kind of cutting out. We have to remember that all of our United States is comprised of, well, some are Native Americans. Many of us are immigrants from another land. The difference now and the difference then is I think most of the people looked at the United States as ultimate glory. And my family, my married family, are Japanese. They came over here, and believe me, they came even before the Second World War. And they even served in the Second World War. And they were amazing warriors. They loved the United States as much as they did their Japanese heritage, but they did not go back. They loved the United States. And that's what we need to see in the new, what do we call them, invaders.
Yeah.
They're not here to love the United States for the fact that it's the United States. They came with a goal, and it's to transform us. And I don't see anything about their society that I care to be part of.
No, and right there's the key. Right there is the key. I love our culture. I love our American way of life. I love the way we celebrate the 4th of July. I love the way we celebrate Christmas. I love the way that we absolutely stand and honor the flag and salute it, and the way we treat our military, hopefully with respect. I love all of this that has made America great. I love that Constitution. I love everything about it. And for anyone to come in here and denigrate or try to change, look out, there's going to be trouble.
You're right. And you know what? There's a couple of songs in my repertory, which is not very big, that bring tears to my eyes. And nothing makes my eyes bleed faster than the national anthem.
Right.
And God Bless America. are these people going to say those things?
Well, I don't think...
Forming our shores.
I do not think that they are here to be inclusive. I do not think they're here to assimilate. I think that we have drawn a line in the sand and they have stepped over it, and they're here because they're getting, quite frankly, in many, many cases, a free ride out of our pocketbook.
Well, and wouldn't we like to know how much it's costing the state of Idaho?
Amen.
Because I mean, I don't want to sound prejudiced because I'm not. I have a intermarriage with a Japanese man, and my kids are American as they can be. And my husband, he was born here. But the thing is he was born red, white, and blue, and so were his parents.
That's absolutely... one quick thing. Chris, give me a short answer on this. How would you define being a Native American?
Being born here.
Okay. So we know, as it's traced back through human histories around the departure of one continent and going to another continent, we know that basically the Native Americans, quote unquote, basically immigrated here from another area. Okay? So I was born here. You were born here. Why are we not the same as what the Oklahoma license plate says, Native America or Native Americans? I'm as native as anybody else is, and I'm sick and tired of being kind of hyphenated against everybody else. I'm a Native American, you're a Native American, and we have a right to feel that way.
Well, and I agree. What I would really like to see is quote-unquote Native Americans, who are the people that we met up with when the pioneers came over here. Let's lift them up. So they're glad to be Native Americans along our side.
There you go. Chris, I got to run and do a commercial. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Nice lady right there. Hey, by the way, you need a plumber? Oh, my. When you need one, you want a good one. And Harris Plumbing NG, they are good. For all your plumbing service needs, one call. That's all. 431-8633. Drips, leaks, clogs. Sounds like the Democratic Party. Main water line repair, water heater softeners, 24/7. Nathan will serve you. I'll tell you what, they know what they're doing, and they do it so well. Harris Plumbing NG, 431-8633. Call when you need help. By the way, too, we'll take some more calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our major sponsor. All 7 locations. They all have the best in tires. They all know about the best in tires. They know all about your different driving habits, like what tire would best fit your vehicle. And they absolutely have something else that's really nice to offer, a free pre-trip safety check. Going someplace, want to see Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred? Well, stop in and they give a visual inspection of your wheel alignment and your brakes and also your battery. It's all this. And they really are caring and serving you. And also the best in brake service and front end alignments and shocks and struts and batteries. Oh my goodness. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. There is no one better. They're the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. One other quick note I wanted to get into this morning. The study that was done at the University of North Carolina, and it's a study, and they spent a lot of money on this. A lot of money on this study for political correctness, and here we are back at words again that the PC police don't want us to use anymore. And as a matter of fact, they're carrying it a step further. They are trying to get people, attorneys and attorney generals and others, to make it illegal and a crime punishable with a fine or maybe even a jail sentence, I can't imagine, if you use some of these words and phrases. You know what a couple of them are? They don't want you to say anymore in public, Christmas vacation. What? And they don't want you to say the terminologies in public of girlfriend or boyfriend. It sounds sexist. And then they don't want you to say in public golf outings with your buddies because it sounds too elitist. And they don't want you to say in public the words, well, that person's an American, or that person's of Irish descent or of Arab descent. No, that's illegal. You can't say that. Do you realize that almost everything we say today, by the stupidity of the mind of an ant, liberal left, wants to make it so offensive to say anything that pretty soon we won't be allowed to talk with each other. We won't be able to converse with each other. And to think that these absolute twits are trying to make laws to go around and catch me on the radio of saying, hey, we're going to go play golf today. Well, that's a crime. You got to pay a $50 fine. Or have a great Christmas vacation. That's a fine. You got to pay a $100 fine. Yours truly, until I turn this microphone off for the last time, will not be defined by these twits. I will say what I want. I promise. I'll be back in 6 minutes. Oh, welcome back. Here we go. Hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday. Deanne just came in and said that on the back porch on our sun deck, it was 110 right now. Thank you for those very pleasant words. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers as our major sponsor, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, you know, they are always at your disposal. Now, let's kind of go through a little bit of the list. You know, they've got the porta potties for all the picnics and the reunions and the business meetings and everything. And, of course, then they've got the route service to get rid of your garbage. We've been on it for years. Absolutely dependable. And they've got the mini storage units, and they've got all the dumpsters in various sizes. I mean, hey, come on. They can help you with anything. Locally owned and operated Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them today, 734-6969. Don't forget, every morning on the program, we start things off with our weather forecast at 8:06, sponsored by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. They've got everything, whatever you need to make your house a home at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Don't forget that. Really nice people. Hey, Thursday is Fishing Day on our program. We've got a segment called The Old Fishing Hole, and it's sponsored by our dear friends at Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. Josh Anderson, and he's going to talk about the equipment, what's biting, what's not, the hot spots, what's not. I'm telling you, this guy really knows fishing. And it's sponsored by Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls on Thursdays at 9:12 right here here on Zeb at the Ranch. Don't you miss it. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and I just absolutely have the most respect for this man, because when he tells you something, that is the way it is. With the Institute of Energy Research, my friend Dan Kish. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. I'm well, and I hope you are as well.
You know, we're in the middle of a nice, warm summer and blue skies, and I don't know where you're at currently on this telephone call, but you folks back on the East Coast have a lot more humidity to worry about than we do.
Oh, yeah, we sure do. That's one of the toughest things about living out here in Washington, D.C. is humidity. It's not Houston, or New Orleans. It's not fun either, as they say, but it's a dry heat, where you are.
Well, I tell you what, right now I'm suffering from a dry, slow burn against this government. I'm suffering from listening to Obama and all of his anti-American activities and things that are going to help this country grow, like fracking and energy research. By the way, what's going on with a federal judge that struck down an Obama administration regulation? Talk about that, if you would, please.
Yeah, sure can, Zeb. Actually, it's great news. We had a wonderful decision last week by a judge actually appointed by President Obama in Wyoming, who took a look at a regulation the Department of Interior had for taking over, elbowing out the state's management and regulation of fracking on BLM lands. They wanted to put another layer on top of that, and the judge said, no, you can't do that, and went all the way back to cite cases at the Supreme Court, the original case at the Supreme Court, Marbury versus Madison, that said that we have separation of powers, and you can't exceed your authority if you're the executive branch. You can't make up laws. You're not a king. Congress makes the laws. You implement the laws they make up, and that's what happened, and that means the states, they want to control everything from here in Washington, Zeb. I live here. These people aren't any smarter than people in the rest of the country. They think they are. They want to be treated like they are, and they like to be paid like they are, but the fact of the matter is they aren't any more smart. In fact, when it comes to common sense, they don't seem to have a lot of it all, but they want to control what we teach in our local schools. They want to tell us, who can go to our bathrooms. They want to take states' control of water within their borders and take it away from them and put it in Washington, where politicians will be in charge of it. And ad infinitum, I think it's part of what the folks over in England rejected last week with the same thing going on in Brussels. They were losing control of their own country and their own destiny, and they decided to grab the reins and take control again.
Dan, you and I have been friends on the radio for quite some time, and I think I'd like you to be critical of me if you think I'm wrong. But, 250 years ago, we fought the King George mentality and wanted to become a sovereign nation of our own. And now we're having to fight, I think, the King Barack mentality right now, and an administration that wants to be a be-all, catch-all, and cover-all. And the American people are like sponges right now. They're not standing up and fighting against it. They're just absorbing it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, a lot of them are, Zeb. I mean, a lot of them really are. They're more than willing to turn over. I hear this all over the place, where somehow if the government will just get involved, it'll get better. Well, do you know of anything where the government got involved where it gets better?
No.
It's not the federal government. I mean, and part of the problem is it's just common. The further you are away from something, the less you know about it. You may think you know about it. You may try to push for control of things, but in essence, the more decisions are made by local people in communities, the better they are. And this desire to accumulate all the power and money in Washington and then divvy it up according to who's your friend and who isn't your friend, and the Obama administration certainly represents that, is a throwback to the very thing that our founders made different when we set up this country. The whole idea was they were smart men. We were blessed to have them, and they looked at the history, whether it was the Greeks or the Romans or the church at certain times down through history, or in the case of the Catholic Church, that was a political force as well as and they said, you know what, we're not going to. We've watched this. We've watched them accumulate power. And it always seems like the human tendency is to grab more power unto themselves, and eventually that power comes from people, and they lose their way. And every time it does, people get poorer, progress stops, opportunities aren't taken advantage of, and new challenges aren't met. And we're going to put a fence around government. We're going to say this is what you can do, and everything else you can't do unless we say you can. And boy, these guys have been working. They've been working overtime, trying to figure out a way to cut the fence, to run over it, to get outside their boundaries. And that's what this is all about. And that's what was so refreshing about the judge in Wyoming, who said, "You're outside the fence you're supposed to be in. Get back in the fence."
And that was very well stated, Dan. I appreciate that. But as you said that, I also am aware that the Obama administration and some of their officials have characterized Judge Skavedahl's ruling as nothing more than a delay. And so, in other words, they kind of scoff at the judge and they say, oh, yeah, okay, a little federal judge, yeah, in Wyoming, big deal. And now they're going to have an appeal and go to the appeals court. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, tough to say. Betting on the courts is a fool's game. But certainly, given the strength of the judge's characterization of exactly what the Interior Department, he didn't mince any words. He was just straight up. He basically called a spade, and that kind of straight talking is America needs more of, instead of all this monkey business or constantly and gibberish that they try to throw at us to confuse us. We scratch our heads and go on to the next issue. He gave it to him straight, as he should have, and I think it's going to be tough for other judges to find it within some new power that they've got when the guy just laid it out starting very beginning of the Constitution. So we shall see. The good thing is that currently they cannot go forward with their plans. So the states, it's not as though this isn't regulated in this particular case. The states are regulated. This is the same thing going on with the WOTUS, the Waters of the United States, where they want to manage everybody's back 40, and if you have a mud puddle that happens because it rains, the government declares, and it's on your property, the government declares it's their water, and therefore they can tell you what you can do in and around that water on your own property. Again, Washington trying to tell people in Idaho and across the country what's best on their own land, trying to extend their control over your private property, trying to somehow insinuate itself and say, oh, gee, this is absolutely necessary for whatever it is they're making up to justify their grab for power. But this is the way of the world, and I'm sorry we have to get used to it, but we got to be on guard for freedom, for liberty, and for our local communities and our own rights that God gave us, the government didn't give us.
Dan, we've got to suffer through 205 more days of Barack Obama. But that being said, I'm really surprised. I've tried to read and I've tried to follow and I've tried to make kind of a library of the different quotations on different subjects regarding Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and very, very little has been said of energy and what she will do if she's elected as president as far as energy situations are concerned. Hillary Clinton. What do you know about this woman? What do you know about her stand on energy?
Yeah. Well, actually, I tell you what, they've been hiding this for some reasons, and you can probably surmise what they are. Hillary Clinton has said that she would regulate fracking out of existence, in essence. She basically, I'm going to paraphrase her quote, I don't have it in front of me, but she basically said, when I'm done regulating, I don't think there'll be much fracking going on in the United States, which means all of this increase in energy that we've had on non-government lands will no longer take place, and we'll be importing more and paying more for it. And Donald Trump, on the other hand, gave a speech it was the beginning of this month in North Dakota, went to the Bakken where much of this has taken place, and gave a wonderful speech on energy, talking about how he thinks it's important that America creates more of their own energy, that we put Americans to work creating our own energy, that we stop closing down all of our coal mines and all the rest. So, but the reason the media doesn't talk about it is because, frankly, Americans don't want to. They know that Americans don't want to pay more than they need to for energy, and that since we've got so much of it that God gave us here, that we ought to be producing more of it. And her position is not popular with the general public.
You know, I was reading a quotation in a story by Lena Moffat. She is the director of the Sierra Club's Beyond Dirty Fuels campaign, and she made this quote, and it's chilling for those of us that want to see America grow and prosper. She said, quote, "While there is no way to ever make fracking safe, the oil and gas industry has repeatedly proven that it needs more standards to keep the public safe from the dangers of fossil fuels." You know, when I read that, I was irate. We need fossil fuels. We can't rely on green energy. The idiocy of solar and wind is absolute hypocrisy against what our needs are. And then you have somebody that speaks out like this person from the Sierra Club, but they gain more media attention than normal people that have the right attitude.
Yeah, well, Zeb, what she also didn't say is the Sierra Club also opposes dams, hydroelectric. You know how important that is in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
They oppose nuclear power. The only thing they're for is solar and wind. Now, listen, solar panels, China makes 80% of the solar panels in the world. Just straight up. Now, why would we stop using our own good old American, God-given oil, gas, and coal, put our people out of work, close down our nuclear plants, as California just announced it's going to do in a few years, and they're down to their last nuclear power plant. We've closed some, like 5 or 6 power plants on Obama's watch. Why would we close our nuclear plants, our coal plants, shut down our oil and gas and our mines and everything else, and turn to the Chinese to make our solar panels, that are also hooked up to our electricity system and our computers, for that matter? I mean, think about this. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but the Chinese are not shy about spying on us. We're going to put their devices in charge of our energy, and then as far as wind goes, most of those companies are foreign companies. They're based in Spain and Denmark and Germany, and we've got a couple here in the United States. But that's who we're being asked to turn our energy over for. So it's against America's interests, against American workers, against American energy. I don't understand. It sounds kind of anti-American, doesn't it?
I'm sitting here, and of course you are so well versed with everything that's going on with energy, and I'm sitting here going, my goodness, how things have changed since I graduated from high school and then graduated from college and then came here to Idaho, started a business and watched it grow, and I really put a lot of time and diligence into it, and it was because of lower energy prices that really my business grew and prospered. And now the common thought and thread between the environmentalists and our politicians is that we have to regress and live like cavemen. This is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, well, Zeb, I mean, it is what it is, but when you think it through, they pretend as though somehow we can live like we currently do, or even better, by doing everything different than the very things which led us to be able to live the way we do today. I mean, you can, they're against agriculture, you know, in terms of they don't want us to kill weeds or bugs, which means the weeds and the bugs will take over the plants we use to feed ourselves and our livestock. They're against pumping water or storing it to put it to our uses. They're against putting our Americans to work to mine or drill for oil and gas, building new nuclear power plants. I mean, they're against everything. And when you think about it, making food more expensive and less available, and making water less available to be used for our uses, and making all of these things, whether it's hard rock minerals, energy resources, all the rest, basically what they're saying is they don't like people.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about a group of individuals who profess to care about our health and safety, and yet everything they do makes our health and safety and our life here on Earth and here in America harder, especially for those who have the least among us.
You know, we've asked this question between us many, many times on this program. But, Dan, what about the bright spots? I want to end this on perhaps a positive note. Good Lord, help us that Hillary will not be elected and the rest of Obama's policies carry on for at least another 4 years. But are there bright spots of where you see people finally starting to wake up and stand up?
Sure, Zeb. I mean, the whole subject that got us started today was a federal judge who was actually appointed by Obama, who finally said, no, my job is to follow the Constitution, not the dictates of someone who wants to be an emperor in Washington, D.C. We have, the entire growth in the energy supplies that we've got in the United States through fracking occurred because some people took their own money and took risks to develop new ways of developing energy where everybody said we didn't have any left. I mean, the president 4 years ago when he was running for re-election said it didn't matter. We can't make the price of gasoline go down by drilling in the United States. Strange economics, I'll grant you, but that's what he said. Well, people with a lot more gumption who actually did build that themselves put their heart, their work, their sweat, their tears, and their money to work, finding out new ways to do things, as Americans always do. And if we can keep the government off our backs, the answer is simple. If we can get the government out of our backs and off our backs and turn it over to the American people, their common sense is good. They work hard. They look forward to the future. They don't try to make things worse. And that's the bright spot about where we're going. This is really about Americans versus their own government.
Absolutely. I absolutely thank you, and I appreciate you, Dan Kish, Institute of Energy Research, and a great spokesman on this program. God bless you, sir, and come back soon.
Thank you, Zeb. God bless you right back, and happy 4th of July. Let's keep that Independence Day going.
All right, my friend. God bless. Thank you. Dan Kish, one of my favorite guests on this program. And, excuse me, I appreciate his comments about energy and his knowledge of what's going on with the government. Thank you very, very much. Oh, my. We've got to pay some bills. And I want to remind you about our dear, dear friends at Hanson Mortuary. Joel Heward and his staff and his family, they really are involved in the community. Very flexible hours, and they're always there when you need them. All you need to do is give them a call. Excuse me for the sore throat all of a sudden this morning. 436-5636. And they can travel to the rural towns and the churches. They can help you and your family with the arrangements when there's the passing of a loved one. You don't always have to go to them. They can come to you. The number to call again, Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. Always treating you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Joel Heward, Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, 436-5636. And some of the great merchants over in Rupert that are going to be looking forward to hosting you during the 4th of July celebration. Don't forget Doc's Pizza at 514 6th Street in Rupert. Oh, delicious pizza and cinnamon sticks. And, well, everything over there is delicious. Now, they're going to be closed on the 4th of July to celebrate with their family, too. But they welcome you to come on over and enjoy the best of pizza, the best of eating at Doc's Pizza, 514 6th Street in Rupert. And don't forget, too, our friends at Dixon Oil. You know, these folks are always so easy to work with special events that are happening over in the Rupert area. And they're located at 602 South 2nd in Rupert. And all the gas, all the fuel, all the heating and propane needs, everything right there at Dixon Oil. And Daryl and the crew wish you and your family a great, safe 4th of July. Thank you very much. In just a moment, we're going to have another really good guest on our program. Excuse me, that's going to be Curtis Ellis coming up. So stand by for that. Want to remind you, too, about Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 in Rupert. And the world, I mean, you want to have some fun. You want to go to where the fun is sold. They've got all the four-wheelers. They've got the side-by-sides. They are having their 2016 closeout and super low prices. The 2017 models are coming in. Oh, my goodness. The very best in accessories, the very best in service. It's all there. Summer hours open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6 at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the world, where the fun is sold. Absolutely. Great folks. And if you're in that area, I suggest you give a call for an appointment at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Now, the number, I'm going to tell you that right up front. Write it down on your refrigerator or on the dust on your dash of your pickup, 436-4424. 436-4424. All your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more that you need to take care of. So call them today for an appointment. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, 436-4424. You know, this next gentleman has been on my program numerous times, and my respect for him and his ability to get the point across is enormous. He really knows his business, and that, of course, is Curtis Ellis. Good morning, Curtis. How are you?
Just great, Zeb. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, it's my honor, sir. And, you know, Curtis, I'm glad that I've got you on the program this morning because I don't think there's anybody that could be more explicit and explanatory about really what happened and why with England voting to get out of the European Union. Go ahead and tell us the reasons you think were good for us and possibly good for them.
Oh, I think one of the main reasons, the reason, is the people of Great Britain, like people here in America, and people all over the world, all over Europe and all over the world, want to see control of their lives. They want to see it returned to the local level. They want to take back control of their lives. We're seeing the representative governments weakening, withering away, and control going further and further away from out of our hands into these unaccountable bureaucracies, whether it's Washington, and then from Washington to these international organizations, to some type of unelected think tanks or academic agencies that seem to be promoting laws. Now, what happened in Britain was the world's oldest parliament there in London, the House of Commons, 70% of the laws and rules that were coming out of Parliament weren't actually coming out of Parliament. They were being dictated to by the European Union in Brussels. which is this 28-nation amalgamation of all the countries of Europe. And then there's an unelected bureaucracy based in Brussels that promotes regulations like we see with EPA and everything from the energy department to the agriculture department to the everything else, OSHA, health and safety, FDA. Well, they've got a similar situation over there in Europe. And it's completely unaccountable because at least here we have the hope that Congress could cut off funding for one of our agencies, for the Environmental Protection Agency or something. If they come up with a really boneheaded rule, we can always threaten to cut their money off. That's not even an option over there with the European Union. And one of the straw that broke the camel's back, though, was the immigration situation. European Union, like this trade deal that Obama's now pushing, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is based on the notion, based on creating the free flow of people, goods, and money across borders. Well, there were all kinds of people moving across the borders of Europe. Some of it was good, but some of it was very harmful to the skilled workers of Great Britain when they were now being forced to compete with plumbers and carpenters from Poland who were used to working for far less. These people were able to walk into London, walk into Birmingham, walk into any place in Great Britain and apply for work and get it and work for far less. So it was, so that was an immediate threat to the wages as well as the culture and traditions of Great Britain. And it's interesting, remember the Polish people are white and Catholic, so nobody can blame this on racism, right? This is purely an economic threat. But then on top of it, you saw these millions of people flooding into Europe, flooding into the European Union from Syria, from North Africa, from Afghanistan, from all over the place. They were on the march through the plains of Europe. And once they're inside Europe, because of the rules of the European Union allowing the free flow of people within the borders of Europe, it was only a matter of time before some of those migrants from the Middle East and North Africa ended up in Great Britain. Plus, and I tell you, it was only a matter of time, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts about this, because the head of the European Union was giving orders to all the countries that they were required to accept a certain percentage and a certain number of these migrants and refugees. So the people of Britain said, hold on, we never said we wanted to bring millions of people from the Middle East and North Africa and all these Muslim countries. We never said we wanted to bring them into the country. Who are these people in Brussels, in this far-off international capital, telling us what to do? We're proud British people. We virtually invented representative democracy. Going back to the Magna Carta in 1215, we said, you don't have absolute rule by whim and dictate of a king. I don't care if the king calls himself the European Union or calls himself King George. That's not the way we roll here in Britain. So enough already. Let's get out of this. Let's take our power back. Let's take control of our future, of our economy, of our borders. Let's take it back. That's the country we were born into. That's the country we developed and evolved over hundreds of years. Why are we giving it up now to some far-off bureaucrats that write rules that we don't even have a say in?
That was a great analogy of the mess that happened over there that is potentially going to happen here. Curtis, I look at this situation where the No Border crowd over in Europe and now the No Borders crowd, many of which even live here in southern Idaho, they want everything open for a mobilized society to go here, go there, go everywhere. But somebody's got to pay. Somebody has got to pay the taxes. Somebody's got to pay the piper. And right now, I am absolutely livid. I will do anything I can to put these No Borders people in their place, which is way back in a dark cave. We've got to thwart this or the whole society's going to go down the drain.
Totally down the drain. Look, we used to have something called the American Standard of Living. It's where you worked a job, you earned a decent day's pay for a decent day's work, and you could support a family on it. That was the American standard of living. We now have a whole new meaning to the American standard of living, and it's American standard, like the toilet bowl, and that's where it's going. If you have unlimited numbers of people coming into this country, it's just simple law of supply and demand. Wages are going to go down, and that, by the way, is exactly what we've been witnessing for the last 20, 30 years since we've had these record levels of immigration. And it's real funny, Zeb. I got a laugh to keep from crying. I get a kick out of these people on TV telling us, like they're experts, that if you believe in borders and a border control and that we have a right, a say-so as to who comes into the country and doesn't, you're immediately branded a protectionist, an isolationist. And those, of course, are bad words in their jargon. It used to be called patriotism. I believe in a country. I believe in my country, in this country. Other people are welcome on terms that we decide. Not just, America's not a soup kitchen and a flop house for the whole world. No other country sees themselves that way. You can't just go and decide, I'm going to go live in India. I'm going to go live in Australia. I'm going to go live in France. No, you have to meet their criteria. You have to have money. You have to have a job. You have to have a skill. You have to be able to support yourself. And then you're allowed in. If you are fleeing war, facing immediate, not even war, by the way, war is not one of the criteria for being a refugee. If you are in fear of immediate death and persecution because of your nationality or your religion or some type of racial persecution, you can apply for refugee status under an international treaty approved by the UN by virtually every country on earth. It doesn't say if I want a job, I can claim to be a refugee and am welcome to go anywhere on earth. That's not the way it works. One of the things I get a kick out of is these people on TV now with the Brexit, now that the British people decided they want to return to the status quo of the way Britain has been for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, a self-governing country ruled by elected representatives. Now that the British people have decided and voted and chosen to do that, you see all the markets, the stock markets are in turmoil, and the stocks are down, and the pound is plunging. And all the people, like on CNBC and the business channels, and people who should know better, who claim to be great boosters of capitalism, who've been telling us that the capitalist system is the most resilient and innovative and creative system in history. It has unleashed the creative potential of humankind like no other economic system before. They're now telling us that, oh my gosh, this capitalist system, this our market system is such a delicate flower that if it doesn't have this exact right condition of unified rules around the world, that now that the British people have decided to govern their country the way they always have, this suddenly is going to destroy the markets. It's going to destroy our economic system. The world is coming to an end. Now, Zeb, think about this for a minute. Capitalism's been around for a while. We had an industrial revolution. People used to make things in their home, but sometime around the beginning of the 1800s, there developed this factory system where you had mass production of goods, and capitalism went through that change. Right? You had wars. You had Napoleon marching across Europe. Napoleon being defeated at Waterloo. The capitalist system survived. You had kings and absolute monarchs ruling Europe and ruling the world. They came tumbling down, starting with the French Revolution, and there was turmoil, and, I don't know if you've seen Les Mis and that whole thing. There was a lot of bloodshed and the guillotines and everything. Somehow capitalism survived that. Then you had World War I. This was supposed to be the war that ended all wars. Before that, you had the Civil War. America, the industrial North versus the agrarian plantation South. Tremendous war. People died in unbelievable numbers. Capitalism survived that. World War I, the tanks, the poison gas. Capitalism survived that. The Bolshevik Revolution. You had communists who were sworn to end capitalism. But you know what? Arm & Hammer, Occidental Petroleum, and a whole lot of other American companies found a way to do business with the Soviet tyrants. And then the Soviet Union fell, and capitalism survived. Now suddenly, because the British people have said, we do not want to be part of this new emerging order, which has never existed before, of having one world, one set of rules for the entire world, for the entire continent of Europe, which, mark my words, is simply a stepping stone to having this same unified one set of rules for the entire world. Now, the British people have said, no, we don't want to be part of that scheme that you're dreaming up. We want to go back. We want to hold on to what we have and continue the way we've been doing. Suddenly we're told that capitalism cannot survive under those conditions. This is the most ridiculous story I have ever heard.
Absolutely. Curtis, you're very knowledgeable about what's going on or what might happen, but do you think today in our society with a biased liberal media and an educational system that leans way to the left, do you think that the American taxpayer in general today understands and realizes how they're being prostituted by government in accepting more out of their paycheck and their pocketbooks with the refugees and all the illegal aliens? Do they really understand what it's costing them?
I think they understand in their gut. I think people understand in their gut something is wrong. This is not right. I don't think they understand consciously and can put it down on a ledger. This is how much it's costing me. But thank goodness we have somebody like Donald Trump out there talking about this. And he said the amount of money that's being spent to resettle the refugees, you could rebuild every inner city in America. The amount of money we're spending to resettle the refugees and to prosecute this great crusade to spread democracy to barbarians who've never had democracy and never had the idea of self-rule, you could rebuild every bridge and highway in America. And you've got him talking about this, so people are beginning to understand. We do have a corporate media that is absolutely devoted to making sure we don't understand, and that they dare to tell us that if you even think of asking questions about that, you're some kind of racist and horrible person. But people are tuning that out, and maybe you and me, we watch too much of these news channels. I don't think most people do. The ratings are kind of low. They'd rather watch football or baseball or something else. But there's a deliberate attempt to pull the wool over our eyes, but people know, they can sense when there's something wrong. And what I do fear, Zeb, is that the younger people and the next generation, unless we teach them, they're not going to know right from wrong. It's up to us to teach them. And certainly these powerful media forces are deliberately trying to mislead them. Either deliberately or just they're ignorant themselves. I mean, I think a lot of them are ignorant themselves. I just have to laugh when I see these TV anchors get up there and after this massacre in Orlando, they're saying Islam is a religion of peace. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, the guy's telling me this. He's whiter than driven snow. He's probably raised as a Christian or maybe a Jew. I don't know. How much does he even know about his own religion? How can he be telling us what this? I don't know anything about Islam. I couldn't say with authority it's a religion of peace. I'm lucky if I can tell you about my own religion. Most people don't even know that much about that. They didn't go to Sunday school that much. They're not. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here, Zeb.
No, I appreciate it, but I want to end our segment by asking you this, and it's kind of going backwards in our conversation a little bit, but it's talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement.
Yeah.
I sit here, and day by day, I read about what's in it. I find out some of the heinous facts that are going to hurt America, hurt employment, absolutely take more of a world situation into the United States and have more people empowered, I should say, to govern over us. Why doesn't the American public, and especially our senators and congressmen, they're getting paid to understand and read what's going on, but so many of them are just, oh yeah, this is a good thing. Let's go ahead and pass the TPP. This is insane.
It is totally insane. At the very moment the European Union is falling apart, the Obama administration and the leaders of both parties, Hillary Clinton, Mitch Ryan, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, they want to enmesh us in a Pacific Union. The very moment the European Union is coming apart because people want to have localized government, they're trying to get us into a Pacific Union. That's what this Trans-Pacific Partnership is. It sets up a international commission that will be writing rules on everything that goes on in our country, on our energy, our food, our immigration, all of it. It'll be ruled by this international commission. It's the idea is of merging the economies so that we have the free flow of people, goods, and money between Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, all the countries in this pact with the United States. That is a recipe for disaster, and it's exactly what we're trying to get away from. Most of these senators, I don't know about most, a lot of them are getting paid by the people who support this. They're getting their money for their campaigns from the very people who want this kind of globalist setup. A lot of the other senators and congressmen, they're too busy trying to raise money and get reelected, trying to figure out what they're doing. They're working 18 hours a day between taking votes and going to fundraisers. And somebody tells them, hey, it's free trade, it's good. Free trade sounds good, just like free ice cream and free food at lunch, right? Free lunch sounds great. This is free trade. Don't think about it. We've made up our minds. We decided this question a long time ago. You got too much to think about. Take my word for it. It's okay. And unfortunately, that's what's happening in too many cases. These guys don't have time. I've worked on Capitol Hill. They don't have time to read the bills they vote on. They have to take the word of their staff, and very often their staff are 25-year-old kids who all they know is what they learned in college. And in college, they're teaching everybody globalization is great. This is free trade. It is not free trade. It has nothing to do with free trade. It's not free, and it's not trade. It's managed. It's protectionism for the large corporations who want cheap labor anywhere they can get it, any way they can get it. They don't want pesky things like national governments getting in the way, writing rules. So they're trying to eliminate the governments, take them out through the back door by transferring power to these international commissions like the European Union and now like this Trans-Pacific Union that they're trying to set up.
Absolutely.
It's a disaster. These guys in Congress are just too busy to do their job. Unfortunately, that is what is too often the case. They're just too busy to do their job.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to have this man as a friend and a guest on this program, the executive director of the American Jobs Alliance and columnist at WorldNetDaily.com, Curtis Ellis. Curtis, God bless you, man. Thanks. Come back soon.
You bet. God bless you, Zeb. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I really enjoy the honesty and integrity of that man and how he explains all the situations that are going on in the world today. Curtis Ellis, very, very honored guest on this program. Oh, my goodness sakes, it's past time, actually. We've got to get a weather forecast in here. Here's Gina.
This high-pressure system is going to be sticking around for just a little bit longer, but you know what? The good news is we are going to be cooling off as we get through the week. Looks like sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, winds out of the west, right around 9 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 95, tonight low of 60, tomorrow partly cloudy, which is going to give us a few degrees of temperatures of coolness. High of 93 with an overnight low of 59, mostly sunny and 92 for Thursday, 90 for Friday, upper 80s for the weekend. Yesterday's high was 94, the overnight low was 50. That is your weather for Zeb Duran.
She does a very, very nice job. Thank you, Gina. We appreciate that. You know, there's an event coming up, and it's going to be July 7, 8, and 9 in Elko, Nevada. It's the Silver State Stampede, where the legend lives on. Oh, my goodness, are they going to have a good time. On Thursday night, the 7th, they're going to have the Old West Bronc Riding World Championships, and then that tri-tip dinner and the mutton busting, and then on Friday and Saturday night, PRCA rodeo action. By the way, this rodeo has been voted one of the very best in the entire Northwest. Silver State Stampede in Elko, Nevada. Don't forget, on Saturday night, July 9th, it's going to be Tough Enough to Wear Pink Night, and, of course, the Ring of Fear. All of this and more at the 2000 2016 Silver State Stampede in Elko, Nevada at the Elko County Fairgrounds. It is a lot of fun, I'll guarantee it. You know what? We've got some time right now. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear from you. We've had a busy morning so far with Dan Kish and then Curtis Ellis. And next hour, we're going to have Dr. History on the program. And filling in today will be John LeMay down in New Mexico. And then at 10:30 this morning, Maureen Ferguson. And we've got a full plate, but I've got just a few minutes, and I'd love to hear some of your phone calls at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, I wanted to get this in a couple of times today that on August 4th, not too many days away in the future, a wonderful friend of mine is coming in to speak, and that's going to be Brigitte Gabriel. And she's going to speak at the Roper Auditorium on Filer Avenue in Twin Falls, August 4th at 7 p.m. And if you have anything planned for that evening, cancel it, because absolutely you should be there at the Roper Auditorium, August 4th, 7 p.m., and listen to a woman that knows more about Muslim problems and radical Islam and what's going on in the world today with the refugee problem, etc. This lady knows more than anybody else, by far more than the Times News in the city of Twin Falls. Brigitte Gabriel, don't forget that, August 4th, 7 p.m. at the Roper Auditorium. Be there. It's going to be an amazing, interesting conversation. Once again, your calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Note of sadness in the sports world, and I mean that. Buddy Ryan, former defensive genius in the National Football League, and was a defensive coach with the Chicago Bears when they won their championship, their Super Bowl. And he was disliked and loved at the same time. He was a man that was hated and loved for his ability. But you know what? His players that played for him and devoted their energy and their existence to what he was trying to teach and coach, they loved him. Buddy Ryan dead at 82 years of age, a passing of a great football coach. And a great lady, basketball coach, Pat Summitt from the University of Tennessee, dies at age 64, way too young. This woman had so much ability. This woman had so much talent as a basketball coach. She led the University of Tennessee volunteer ladies basketball team to 8 national championships. And she was outstanding, heads and shoulders above anybody else in her field. And so, with great condolences, Pat Summitt of the University of Tennessee and Buddy Ryan, 2 great sports figures, have passed away, and they will not soon be replaced for their ability. Coming up next hour, Dr. History, and I want to give you a little preview of what we're going to do. Dr. History Ken Turner is not with us this morning, and so we lined up John LeMay down in Roswell, New Mexico. And John's been on the program before talking about that area of New Mexico with Billy the Kid, etc. Today's a little different. We're going to be talking about Roswell and the illegal aliens or aliens from outer space, whatever it is. He's going to tie that into a lot of the Old West stories. So it should be really interesting. Stay tuned for that. So there you go. That's the next hour coming up. And again, we thank you for all your listenership and your calls and your questions. And right now we're going to turn it back over to our main studios. We'll be back after the CBS News. Don't you go away. Okie dokie. Here we go. Hour number 3 on a Tuesday. A little bit cloudy outside. Not bad. Going to be warm one. Deanne, what'd you say it was on the back sun deck? 110. Whew. Stay off the sun deck. There you go. Good morning, Zev at the Ranch, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And of course some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them, get on the route service 734-6969. Hey, don't forget, of course, the Rupert 4th of July celebration. I mean, we're talking lawnmower races at the fairgrounds. We're talking about patriotic programs. We're talking about music. We're talking about a huge parade. All of this June 30th through the 4th of July in Rupert. Rupert 4th of July celebration with the theme, The Land That I Love, with the Grand Marshals Bert and Elaine Stevenson. Starting this Thursday morning, coming up June 30th, Christmas in July breakfast right there on the city square. Don't miss all the fun. The Rupert 4th of July celebration for 2016. Right now it's time for our program, Dr. History. And Dr. History is brought to you by Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Oh my goodness, hey, Zach and the whole crew, they're always there with the best of lumber and windows, everything. We're going to tell you a lot more about Minnecasia Sales in just a few minutes, but right now we're going to start our program, and we have a guest with us all the way in the Roadrunner state of New Mexico, Mr. John LeMay. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning, Zev. I'm good.
What's the weather like down in New Mexico this morning?
It's hot and dry.
Which is customary for this time of the year?
Absolutely.
Now, what part of New Mexico are you in, John?
Roswell is in southeastern New Mexico. Smack dab in the middle of it.
Roswell, New Mexico. Gee, let me dip into my past thoughts. Isn't that the famous place where aliens from outer space may have dropped in to say hello?
You are correct, but they crashed. They didn't drop in.
So they had a bad pilot. What happened down there?
Well, the main consensus is on July 2nd, something exploded over Mac Brazel's sheep ranch in Corona, New Mexico. They think it got struck by lightning, and it scattered debris down all over his ranch. And then the main portion of the craft kept on flying southwards until it landed about 35 miles just outside of Roswell. And so a few days later, Mac went out on his horse to, go out and check on the sheep, and he saw all this strange debris just strewn all over his pasture. So he loaded some of it up and actually brought it to Roswell, because at the time Roswell had an Army airfield base there. And so he, knew they would be the best authorities to handle it. And so then on July 8th, there's the famous newspaper headline from the Roswell Daily Record that they've discovered a flying saucer on a ranch. And then, very curiously, the next day, that story is retconned or debunked to say that it was all a weather balloon. So, people often wonder why the military, authorized a press release that they'd found a UFO one day, and then the very next day, they took it back.
John, this is nothing new, government cover-ups, and the sad thing is it's been expanded to modern-day times, possibly regarding Benghazi and other events. But what are your thoughts? I mean, really, you live there, you know the people, you know the situation. What do you say, truth or fiction?
I'd say truth, because like you said, I do know the people. One of those witnesses, I actually used to mow his lawn back when I was a teenager. So, and now I look at it just like I look at Billy the Kid. I wasn't there, but who are the people who gave these accounts, and are they trustworthy? And all of these men who gave the really big accounts on Roswell, they're part of the great World War II generation. I don't see why they would, make stories up and lie. So because they said it and it came from their mouths, I tend to believe it.
Okay, now what about the crash itself? Let's talk a little bit about that, and the equipment, and the finding, and perhaps the government hush-up. Tell us a little bit about that.
You cut out just a little bit, Zeb, but I think I got the gist of your question, so come back to me if I don't answer it. But
okay.
The main portion of the wreckage that everybody talks about was this metal that you could crumple up in your hands, and then when you'd let it go, it would unfold, and it would be perfectly smooth with no wrinkles in it. And people were fascinated by this metal, and supposedly it really got around the state, and supposedly people were even showing it off at a fair in Capitan, New Mexico, if I remember right. And then the other wreckage that really caught people's eye were these beams with like hieroglyphic writing on them. That was the other big thing. And then, the main portion of the crash, probably the parts that would really fascinate us, were taken to the Roswell Army Airfield Base, and then supposedly after that it was all shipped to Wright-Patterson Field in Ohio.
Now, what about the story as far as actually having a dead body, a dead alien, and there were autopsies performed, etc.? What's the truth or fiction to that?
Well, I obviously I can't say, but a lot of the servicemen, or several of the servicemen, I guess I should say, they were very reluctant to talk about the aliens. They acted like talking about the crash and the wreckage was one thing, but if you talked about the aliens, you could get in even bigger trouble. So to talk about the aliens didn't really come up in interviews as much until, let's say, like the 1990s. And the 2000s is when they kind of began to reveal more about the aliens. But there were supposed to be several dead aliens found, and then there was one that was supposedly still alive. And he lived for a very short time after the crash, and then he passed away. But they matched the typical, alien description of the little short gray guys with the big black eyes. That's how everyone described them.
Now, John, in that area, had there been other sightings? Had there been other UFOs mentioned in historical times back to the Old West? Give us a little background on that.
Yeah, Roswell was not really the first UFO crash. There were actually quite a few back in the Old West, just like you were saying. The most famous one, though, is the one, it's not too far outside of Fort Worth, and it was a little town called Aurora, Texas. And in 1897, a cigar-shaped metallic craft kind of came cruising through town, and it crashed, and it destroyed the windmill and a water tower of this judge that lived in town. And according to these two articles published in the Dallas Morning News and the Fort Worth Register, during that time period, the townspeople found a pilot that was not of this world and gave him a proper Christian burial in their cemetery.
All right. Now, have they exhumed the body, or do they know where the grave is? What's been the study of that case to find out if it's real or not?
Well, since this happened so long before Roswell and UFO crashes were really in the public mind, that didn't ever really happen. In 1973, a reporter actually went to the Aurora Cemetery, and he found a tombstone that had kind of a crude spaceship carved into it. And so he wrote an article about it, and this was, again, in 1973, and right after he wrote the article, someone stole the tombstone, just like Billy the Kid's tombstone got stolen. So after, the marker was gone, it was, darn near impossible to say where this, alleged alien was buried. But, modern programs like, what's it called, UFO Hunters or whatever it is on the History Channel, I know they've been to the Aurora Cemetery and tried to find this grave, and of course, it's very difficult to do so, and they, naturally speculate maybe the government's gotten in there and dug up the alien if there ever was one.
Let me ask you.
I want to mention, Zeb, I think is really interesting is there is an official Texas Historical Commission state marker for the Aurora Cemetery, and it actually mentions the alien crash story like it's fact. So I think that's interesting.
You know, John, you're an author, and you do a lot of intense studying of the various articles and books that you're going to write. What about you? What about you as a researcher? What about you looking at history? What about you looking at the truth? What are your thoughts about UFOs and that crash landing at Roswell and other crash landings in the Southwest? What are your thoughts?
Well, Roswell, again, I actually knew several of the people that were, some of the key witnesses. So because of them, and I knew them, and I think they were trustworthy individuals, I believe the Roswell crash story. As for the other ones, I don't personally know any of those witnesses, and I haven't really done as much research on those either, so I guess what you could say is if there really was a crash in Roswell, why couldn't there have been, crashes elsewhere too? So some of them are probably real, and then some of them are probably just newspaper hoaxes or something of that nature.
I'm going to do a commercial break, and when I come back, I want you to answer this. What about the coercion and the possible arm twisting by our government to minimize the truth and reality of the crash? I want you to talk about that in just a moment. I got to do a quick commercial. I'll be right back with John LeMay in New Mexico. Don't forget, for all your lumber packages, don't forget for all your roofing needs, don't forget for all your windows, to upgrade your windows with the Western Windows, save on your heating and cooling bills. The place to go is Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport, and the number to call, 878-2091. Zach and the rest of the crew absolutely serving you with the best. Don't wait. Call them today or stop in. Minnecasia Sales in Burley, sponsoring Dr. History. What about the answer to that question? John, go ahead.
Okay, my favorite witness, probably, or to me the most interesting historical figure in that whole thing, is Mac Brazel, the rancher. And, Mac, he was trying to be a patriot when he turned that UFO in. And instead, in his words, he felt like he was treated like a criminal as time progressed, because he was detained at the Roswell Army Airfield for quite a while, and he wasn't allowed to leave and see his family. So he was, very insulted by that. And initially, Mac would talk to, like, let's say, for instance, the Roswell radio people, this being Frank Joyce, and he told Joyce, the radio announcer, that yes, it was a flying saucer, and that, he had even seen these alien bodies. Well, then, the government detained him for, I think it was about a week, and then they brought him back to go see Frank Joyce again, and this time Mac told Frank Joyce that, no, it was a weather balloon I found. And so it's obvious that they, threatened him or did something to him to get him to change his story. And, there's actually a quote of Mac Brazel in the Roswell Daily Record after all the fuss had died down, where he says, "Unless I find a nuclear bomb on my ranch, I'm not ever going to report anything to the government again."
What about the families?
And other than Mac, though, too, there's a lot of witnesses who, in the 1990s, said that their lives were threatened, if they would talk about the things that they had seen.
John, what about the families today? I mean, when you said you were a child growing up, you had mowed the lawns of some of the people that were involved in the actual crash site and some of the material, etc. But what about the families? Are many of the families still residing in that area? Are many of the families, do they still carry on the thought and the persuasive thought that actually did happen? What about them?
Sure. There's a book going to come out by Thomas Carey and Don Schmidt I want to mention, because I think it's going to be a great book. It's called Children of Roswell, and it's all about the children of these witnesses and their lives and stuff. So look for that eventually one day, and that'll probably be a really fantastic book. But as for Roswell, a lot of those servicemen were from other areas, so quite a few of those people and their families don't live in Roswell anymore. There are a few, but not as many as you might think.
What do you think happened and why? Why do you think that area, per se, was maybe a home to landing on our Earth, our planet? Why do you think that there were many sightings of the Old West up to modern times? What makes that area so pervasive to perhaps alien involvement?
I can't speak for why it would have been in the Old West, but for New Mexico, though, at that time, Roswell is not very far from the Trinity site where the first atomic bomb was detonated. So a lot of ufologists, came to the conclusion that if there were flying saucers, that's why they would be flying over that area, as they had just seen that big giant explosion. And then there's White Sands Missile Range as well, which conducted a lot of tests very frequently. So that's why they think there would have been a lot of UFOs flying around New Mexico. But as for the Old West, who knows? But I will tell you, for those Old West accounts, they weren't really just in New Mexico and Texas. They were in Nebraska and just really all over the western United States.
Did a lot of these stories, John, were they duplicated in their thought and the origination of the story? In other words, did they explain basically seeing the same types of things?
Well, if we're talking about modern UFO sightings, yes, they were always, your typical classic flying saucer. The Old West UFO sightings, absolutely not. It was something different every time. For instance, there was a fur trapper in the Rockies in the 1860s who said he saw a meteor crash in the mountains, and he tracked it down, and he says this meteor had strange hieroglyphics on it. In Fort Scott, Kansas in 1873, there's newspaper articles about people watching some sort of mechanical serpent glide through the skies, which, we definitely never hear about today. In 1891, there was an account of a UFO exploding over a Texas cotton gin in Dublin, Texas. So their UFOs, back then they called them airships. They never called them UFOs. And, a lot of times they would look different from what we would call UFOs today.
John, what about the validity of what they said in days gone by versus the validity of what happened purportedly at Roswell and what happened with your thoughts today? I mean, you're a writer and you live there, you see the skies, you understand what's going on. What are your thoughts?
Well, the Old West stuff I'm a little more leery of, because back then they would do newspaper hoaxes just for fun and to get readers, so those ones you can't take too seriously. They could have happened, but because of the newspaper hoaxes of the time, it's just a lot harder to say. But, again, I believe in my own town's, Roswell UFO crash, just, again, based on the witnesses and things like that.
What about the material itself? Have you been to the museum? Have you looked at the material? Have you studied supposedly what the spaceship was made out of? Have you really taken a good look at everything?
No, and actually our UFO museum does not have any verified UFO debris. All of the UFO debris was always rounded up by the government. If anyone ever said that they had any of it, the government would be on their doorstep right away. And I'm speaking of like Corona, New Mexico, where there was all of this debris. A lot of the ranchers up there said the military would come knocking on their door and collect the debris from them. So supposedly all of that debris is locked up somewhere.
I see. Now, when you say that, and a matter for public record and public information, has the government acknowledged where this debris is saved, and is it on display anywhere? Is it locked up? Does anybody know where it is?
No, the government, won't say. I think they're still going with the weather balloon and the crash test dummy story. I think that's still their official story.
I see. Are you going to be personally writing any stories about this? Have you written any stories about this, or is it something in the future? Tell us about your plans.
Okay, no, I've done a couple of books in the past. For instance, if any of y'all out there were interested in the Old West UFO reports, I've got a whole book called The Real Cowboys and Aliens, UFO Encounters of the Old West, and it's actually written, it's a completely, non-fiction, factual book based on all of these newspaper accounts, but it is written for, let's say, middle school age kids and high school age kids, so it's written very briskly, but if it interests you, the real information is in there, if you're an adult. But I also did a book called Roswell, USA, Towns That Celebrate UFOs, Lake Monsters, Bigfoot, and Other Weirdness. Because I noticed after Roswell had so much success with their UFO festival, a lot of other little towns across the United States would find something weird from their past and turn that into a festival. So, there's towns that their thing is Bigfoot, or their thing is their local lake monster. You know what I mean? So I think that's very interesting as well.
Now, be honest with me when I ask you this last question. When you're out at night, maybe midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and walking outside or walking down an old gravel road, do you kind of get an uneasy, queasy feeling that somebody is watching you down in Roswell, New Mexico?
Only the criminals, Deb, not the aliens.
John LeMay, I appreciate your being on the program this morning, and I hope you'll come back in the future. You're a very nice man, and I appreciate your information, and God bless you, and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb.
All right, take care. John LeMay, down in Roswell, New Mexico on Dr. History, brought to you by Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. The number to call, 878-2091. I want to take just a moment here and also acknowledge that we have another show segment on our program Thursdays at 10:10, Cassia County School Days, and it's sponsored by A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. Don't forget summer clothes, my goodness, 30% off, and businesses locally owned and serving you, and they've got everything for the babies and toddlers. And don't forget, too, free gift wrapping, and they're always there to serve you at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. We also want to acknowledge, of course, our friends at the Burley Ambulatory Center, the other sponsor of Cassia County School Days, and they have the only glaucoma surgery machine in all of southern Idaho. Call them today for your outpatient surgeries and save money. 677-8888. 677-8888. Located at 1344 Highland in Burley. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. In just a few minutes, we're going to send it back over to our main studio and have our hard break at the bottom of the hour. But I also want to say thank you very much to the Savings Continuing at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More at 459 Overland in Burley. My goodness, all the recliners are on sale, all of them. And you got to get in and try one on and find one that best fits you. Don't forget, all the reclining living room sets are on sale. They've got all the bedroom sets. They've got closeout on certain Beauty Rest mattresses. Oh my goodness, you better stop in today. 0 interest for 12 months on approved credit. Everything's on sale at Lee's Furniture, Floors and More, 459 Overland in Burley. Right now, we'll send it back over to Wheels. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, welcome back. And don't forget the Rupert 4th of July celebration coming up, and you don't want to miss a minute of it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and the merchants over there welcome you to Rupert, like Mad River Laser at 502 East Street in Rupert, right next door to the Youth Ranch. Don't forget, the entire Christmas line is going to be out, so it's kind of like Christmas in June and July. So Christmas in Junely. There you go at Mad River Laser. They really are a unique store. You stop in and see them today. Along with Snyder Surplus at 116 South, 200 west of Rupert. Oh, my goodness sakes. Snyder Surplus has something for everyone, and how true that is. From filing cabinets, desks and chairs, dining table sets, light fixtures, knives, machetes, axes, shovels, everything at Snyder Surplus. And they're really nice people, too. At 116 South, 200 west of Rupert. And they invite you to the Rupert 4th of July celebration. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I'm very honored to have this lady that is the senior policy advisor for the Catholic Association, and she's been on our program many times in the past. Good morning, Maureen Ferguson. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well and happy to be on with you.
You know, Maureen, you've been here many times in the past on our program, but right now it looks like the United States Supreme Court struck down a Texas abortion law. Tell us a little bit about what this ruling by the Supreme Court means and what effect it's going to have on America.
Sure. I'll give your listeners just a little bit of the history behind the Texas law that was before the Supreme Court. Some of your listeners may remember a very highly publicized trial of an abortionist in Philadelphia named Dr. Kermit Gosnell. This guy was operating under the most horrific, grisly, unsanitary conditions. Women died at his clinic. He was aborting babies that were born alive, and he was eventually convicted of murder, because if you abort the baby after it's born, that's infanticide, that's murder. So he eventually went to jail, but his clinic had operated without any oversight or regulation for 17 years. This filthy, dirty abortion clinic in inner city Philadelphia. Even though women had died, women had gone to the hospital, all kinds of, health problems with this clinic. So in the wake of that trial, some legislators around the country, and in particular in Texas, passed very common sense laws saying that, abortion clinics should abide by the same health and safety regulations that other surgical care clinics abide by. Very common sense, right? That, if you're having outpatient eye surgery, there should be the same health and safety standards as if you're having an abortion surgery. Very common sense. But yet the abortion lobby, seeking to protect abortionists, fought all the way to the Supreme Court against this law, saying that it was unnecessary, despite all the evidence that they're sadly quite necessary. And yesterday, sadly, the Supreme Court just sided with the abortionists and the abortion lobby in striking down these very common sense health and safety regulations. So that's it in a nutshell. It really gives lie to or it's a great irony, you could say, that the so-called advocates of women's health fought all the way to the Supreme Court for lower substandard health care for women in abortion clinics.
Maureen, I was absolutely shocked that conservative Justice Anthony Kennedy sided with the liberal members of the court in making it a 5-3 ruling. What were your thoughts when you heard that he jumped ship and went over to the liberal side?
Well, Anthony Kennedy has a long history of being on both sides of the abortion question. He has disappointed us greatly before on abortion issues. And quite frankly, I was not very surprised that he went the other way on this, based on some of the questions that he was asking during oral arguments. You can never really rely on questions during oral arguments to predict the outcome of a case, but Kennedy's questions were very disheartening, actually. So I think they just fell for the lies coming from the other side on this issue. And the other side kept arguing, these health and safety standards will force about half of the abortion clinics in Texas to close. Well, I guess my first question is, if these abortion clinics can't meet basic health and safety standards, shouldn't they be closed? And then I guess my second reaction is, Texas is a big state, and people have to drive great distances to reach anything. I mean, our vets can drive hours and hours and hours to reach a vet's hospital. But yet the Supreme Court is going to make sure you don't have to drive too far for an abortion clinic. There are abortion mega centers all over Texas and all of the big cities. There's hardly a lack of access to abortion in the state of Texas. You might have to drive a couple hours, but in the state of Texas, you have to drive a couple hours to go to the malls because of the vast size of the state. So anyway, it's a terribly tragic decision because women will continue to suffer at the hands of unscrupulous abortionists. And people, a lot of people don't think about this, but the abortion industry really tends to attract sort of the worst of the crop of doctors. It tends to attract very seedy and unscrupulous doctors. It's not exactly an esteemed profession that, if you're at the top of your class in medical school, you're probably not going to become an abortionist. And it's well documented that the abortion industry is rife with these seedy abortionists that, have been convicted of sexual assault. They lose their medical license in one state. They go to the next state and set up shop there. They operate without a license in many cases. It's very well documented. If you want to just Google abortion industry negligence, you can see that negligence in the abortion industry and gross incompetence is rampant in the abortion industry. And yet, it's one of the least regulated industries, right? So, there's a strange sort of, generally the Democrats want more regulation of various industries and the Republicans want less regulation of various industries. Well, there's a real role reversal here because the Democrats are saying, we should have little to no regulation of abortion clinics. And the Republicans are saying, actually, this is an instance where they need some regulation and oversight because they're dealing with women at a very vulnerable time and in many cases taking advantage of that.
Tell me if you think I'm wrong on this, Maureen, but as you were talking, I see an increase of the filthy, dirty, back alley doctors with the sly looks and the wink of the eye and the door being closed and no respect for human life. Is that the picture that is really going to happen in America today with these Supreme Court decisions?
Well, it gives a green light. This decision gives a green light to these shady abortionists. And as I said, it's well documented that they abound, these shady doctors who, a lot of them have been caught for dealing in prescription drugs, for dealing in illegal prescription drugs. That's the way, by the way, that Kermit Gosnell was finally caught.
Right.
Not because any health inspectors were looking over his shoulder, but the DEA snagged him for dealing in prescription drugs. That's how he got snagged and eventually ended up on trial, because once they finally walked into his clinic, and again, it had gone 17 years without a health inspection.
Wow.
Now, if you go to a nail clinic to get your nails done, right, just to get your fingernails painted, there's all kinds of health and safety regulations. Regulators check up on a nail salon. But yet 17 years this guy had been butchering women in his clinic. And, a doctor, still takes the Hippocratic oath. So if you have a doctor who's willing to do abortions, willing to stop the beating heart of a living member of our human family, they're not going to tend to be the type that has a great respect for life in general. And again, women are suffering at the hands of these shady abortionists.
And, you know, I'm sitting here with a tear in my eye because it's not just the women suffering, it's another innocent life being lost and multiplied by possibly thousands. As women look at this as nothing more than a birth control item and no value of human life whatsoever. I'm just sickened by this.
You know what? It's terribly sad. And as I was pointing before to the sort of the irony of basic health and safety regulations in this instance. Now, Democrats on Capitol Hill were all for the regulation of the tobacco industry, right? They hauled the tobacco executives before Congress. And, you know, the statistics are that tobacco kills about 480,000 people a year. Well, abortion takes the life of over 1 million members of the human family every year. Innocent, developing human beings, innocent babies. And yet the Democrats on Capitol Hill and the liberals on the Supreme Court, including Justice Kennedy, say, oh no, we don't need any oversight or regulation of that industry. I mean, it's shameful. It's really shameful, and it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and I want to bring politics into play a little bit here because I know that the Democratic presidential nominee, presumptive nominee, Hillary Clinton came on and said that about the ruling, she said a victory for women in Texas and across America. How could a woman running for president talk to and about other women and call this a victory for women when we're talking about more loss of innocent lives?
I mean, it's so insulting to women for her to even make that claim. But we know where Hillary Clinton stands on this issue. We know what kind of Supreme Court justices Hillary Clinton will appoint. And it's really important for us to remember this as we go into the voting booth in November, that the Supreme Court, we see how high the stakes are at the Supreme Court and what incredible impact they have on policy in the country because of their activism, their lack of judicial restraint. They're really, really affecting policy in our country. So we all need to remember that we know Hillary Clinton will appoint justices that will give us more rulings like this tragic ruling yesterday. And, people have a lot of mixed feelings about Donald Trump, and I certainly understand that. I will say he put out a very, very good list of Supreme Court, potential Supreme Court picks. So there is a very clear contrast between the two presidential candidates on this very important issue.
Maureen, one final thought here. We're living in an age where the media has been subjected to criticism, and then also they've been wrapped up with the liberals on most topics here in America, and this is one of them, the abortion issue. What about the media? How do we fight the media and get people to tell the real story?
You know what? It's so frustrating to watch the coverage yesterday. You had, from the mainstream media, these reporters there on the Supreme Court, practically cheering and, calling it a party on the steps of the Supreme Court with all those Planned Parenthood folks. I mean, they're practically part of the celebration. And, it's a victory for women's rights, they kept saying. I mean, just look at what the decision was. The decision specifically is for substandard care for women in an industry in which there's rampant substandard care for women. So, I mean, I just don't know how the media has characterized this as a win for women. It's very frustrating, and it's really important for women to speak up and to speak out about, having our own voice and our own views on these issues other than, that Hillary Clinton does not speak for us.
Let me ask you one final thought connected to that, though. What about the abortion issue in general? I mean, the taking of a human life and the just basically discarding of a human life. Why isn't the media subject to more education and doing better, insightful stories as to the trauma that's caused not only to the family but also the death of a human being. Why aren't they doing more on this?
You know what? It's such a problem on so many issues that the media just has blinders on their eyes and characterizes, people with whom they disagree. I mean, there's not even a veneer of objectivity on so many of these issues anymore. And I guess we just all need to really pray a lot that their eyes would be open, because we're talking about basic facts of science. At 18 days, that little heart has started to beat. This is before most women even know that they're pregnant. There's a little beating heart. And it's not the beating heart of a polar bear. It's not the beating heart of a little baby seal. It is a baby human. It is scientifically a member of the species Homo sapiens. This is a little human being whose heart is being stopped in every abortion.
Absolutely.
So, the science is clear. The media just chooses to ignore it.
Maureen, I thank you so much for coming on the program. Senior Policy Advisor for the Catholic Association, Maureen Ferguson, thank you. And I know I'm going to have you back in the future. God bless you for all you're doing. I appreciate it.
Good to be with you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Wow. The abortion issue. The taking of a little life. I have a hard time with this. Right now, it's time for the weather, and we're going to be talking about Scarrows Meats, our weather sponsor at 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. You know what? It's time this summer to clean out your freezer and bring your wild game meat to Scarrows Meats, and they can make it into salami, and they can make it into pressed jerky or pepperoni sticks, all at discount prices. You call them today. Your hometown meat cutter, locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years, Scarrows Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
This high-pressure system is going to be sticking around for just a little bit longer, but you know what? The good news is we are going to be cooling off as we get through the week. Looks like sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, winds out of the west, right around 9 miles an hour. We are expecting a high of 95, tonight low of 60, tomorrow partly cloudy, which is going to give us a few degrees of temperatures of coolness. High of 93 with an overnight low of 59, mostly sunny and 92 for Thursday, 90 for Friday, upper 80s for the weekend. Yesterday's high was 94, the overnight low was 50. That is your weather for Zebit Duran.
I'll tell you what, thank you, Gina. Great job. And the weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome, the number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Once again, a couple of reminders here real quick. I got to get these in, that next week, the July 7, 8, and 9, 8, 9, and 10, the Snake River Bros are going to have their great big gathering in Murtaugh Lake, and they're going to have all kinds of fun and games and everything else. Biker rodeo on Friday, 8:30 to 1 a.m., and then on Saturday they're going to have all kinds of fun. This is really quite an event at Murtaugh Lake every year. Snake River Bros and their Murtaugh Lake event coming up on July 8, 9, and 10. And then, once again, I wanted to remind you that my dear friend Brigitte Gabriel is going to be speaking in Twin Falls on August the 4th. Now, mark that on your calendar at 7 p.m. at the Roper Auditorium on Filer Avenue in Twin Falls. Nobody knows more about illegal immigration and refugees and Muslim terrorism than this lady. She has lived it and been a part of that when she was a little girl, and now she's speaking out and letting everybody know about the dangers. Brigitte Gabriel, August 4th on 7 p.m. at the Roper Auditorium in Twin Falls. Free admission. Be there. Oh, my goodness. We want to say thank you, and I want to give a great tribute to our major sponsor on this program, and that's, of course, our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You know, they've got some great tire buys for this summer, for summer travel. Like, they've got an all-season tire for your car, economically priced, and starting at just $39.99. I'm not kidding. And then they've got other great tires, many of which are on sale. You know, check out the Xeon RS3A for your passenger cars. All-season performance, quality handling, it's on sale right now. You check out all the tire buys for your safe summertime travel. And, don't forget they've got the best in brake service, the best in front end alignments and shocks and struts and batteries. But you know, above all, at all 7 locations, service reigns supreme. They really take care of you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I don't know if we said happy birthday to this man the other day or not. If we didn't, I feel bad because I wanted to wish him a very happy birthday. It was this last Saturday. Berwin Mussman over at Eden Hazelton area was celebrating a birthday. Very nice family, very nice man. Berwin Mussman, happy birthday. And I know the family had a big gathering for you on Sunday. Cake and ice cream and everything. So happy birthday to him. Oh, boy, we got a busy day tomorrow. Wednesday, we've got guests on from the Rupert 4th of July celebration. We're going to have people talking about climate change and how they're trying to make it illegal if we speak out against it, and many others. So tune in tomorrow morning at 8:06. We'll saddle the horse and go for 3 hours to 11 right here on Zebeth Ranch. And by the way, if you want to listen in on the internet, go to zebbell.com, click all the buttons. You can follow us on YouTube. We have an outstanding audience, nation and worldwide, and we thank each and every one of them. Remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. We'll see you tomorrow morning.